bragging or anything, but that's what she... Hello, and welcome to another Mr. Beats Bike video, and this one's a little bit different insofar as we are looking at a rather lovely Philips VR2840. And this machine is really the top of the range machine from Philips of the time. It's a V2000 machine, and honestly, I am so excited to get this up and running. Bought this off eBay, not for a massive amount of money, I suppose you could say. Mainly because it's dead. It doesn't do anything at all apparently, and there's a tape stuck in it which I must return to the seller if I do manage to extract it, which I'm sure I will. And yeah, just really looking forward to cracking on with this and getting it up and running. So, as I said before, let's crack on. So this machine, the owner actually used this for many years, and it's been very loved and cherished. It actually was pretty well packed. The only slight issue is that the case has sort of somehow got sort of squashed and has overridden the side panel, but hopefully that'll be okay. Rear panel, so this SCART connector, and yeah, so it looks really good. And the first thing we're going to do is whip the top off, and we've got to change that, or well, I'm actually just going to remove the RIFA mains capacitor, the one that goes pop. So yeah, let's crack on and do that. So removing the top panel, 2 screws at the back. Oh, I say 2, it's actually 3. Tell it's a while since I've worked on one of these. So machine screws, all the same. So, the RIFA capacitor is actually in this module here, so we need to get that out, because this is quite different. This is quite different to the lesser models then, insofar as everything is mounted onto this metal frame, which is actually quite cool. These, in some of these machines, are actually mounted on plastic brackets here, and when they're sent to the post, they just break off and fall onto the board and break the board and cause all sorts of mayhem. So yeah, it's actually quite nice to see that. Now this has been in the damp. There's rust here, quite a bit of rust on here. This looks a bit like a regulator, and then you can see this, well, some on the top there and all down here. So that's a shame. A shame it's been in the damp. The backup battery is down here, which is quite different to the lower models that usually have it on the front panel. So yeah, I'm sort of quite interested to sort of work on this and try and find out what's going on. But that isn't answering the question, how on earth do I get this out? And of course I've never worked on one of these before. So it looks like we've got a screw down there, a screw there, there's a screw down here, which you can't really see. And I think that should remove it. So I'll give that a try and yeah, see what happens. So there you have it. So I've managed to remove it. It comes out as one unit. It's literally 2 screws to remove the heatsink. This is actually completely free, so you can remove that completely if you want to. It's the screws I mentioned, and the one down there, and then take off this clip here, and yeah, it just comes apart. I mean, I unplugged these thinking that I could just remove this frame, but this frame is actually holding on to the PCB, so you're removing the whole thing, which actually isn't that bad. I mean, it's actually a really clever design that you can get to everything with just a few screws to remove. But it did throw me, and yeah, quite cool, really. I suppose. I think I did take that off as well, which you don't need to. And I did remove cables from that clip, but didn't need to do that either. So yeah, let's get the RIFA out. Okay, so to open this module, undo the screw. I remember this. I'm sure the other machines must be the same. I just haven't remembered. It's been a very long time since I've worked on one of these. A very long time. So, at the back here, there's a little tab, which hopefully won't break. There we go. You slide it down, put it out, and there it is. And that's broken. Before I even start, it's broken. Do you wonder about this? It just seems very damp. Oh, there's nothing in there. There is no capacitor. And there never has been. That has not been desoldered. So that's fascinating. They must have just given up on putting a RIFA. So this must be a very late machine. That bit of plastic that's broken off, that comes off there. So will I glue it back? Probably will glue it back, just because I'm just a bit over the top with keeping these things good and original. So yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, that was a waste of time, but it does give me a chance to check, I suppose, the board. Well, I can run it like this. So yeah, let's do that, and let's crack on. Okay, so I've had a better look at this. I'm still a bit concerned that it has been, at some point, in a very damp atmosphere. You can see, maybe shows up totally well on the camera, but there's quite a bit of rust here, and all around there's just spots of rust. The metal is actually really well treated, so it's actually done pretty well. But yeah, the sort of whitening of the printed circuit boards, this isn't necessarily to do with damp. The varnish they used does degrade with time and it just whitens up, so I'm not terribly worried about that. But some of you might have already noticed, and I didn't notice until just now. This is a remote machine and there is no remote receiver, so yeah, that's not good. Now, luckily, I do have quite a few of the portable decks and the tuner add-on, and one of them is for spares, like completely for spares, and that does have that receiver. I'm hoping it's the same. It should be the same. I believe they're the same, but we'll see. I don't have a remote, but I have been promised one, so we'll see. The other thing is it has had a new backup battery. Awful lot of flux all around here. It's not ideal. It's a bit sticky, but yeah, it's seen life. There's some screws missing as well, or one or two screws. There's one missing there. I don't know whether there ever would have been one there, but I would have thought there would have been. And also the screw in here is missing. So yeah, it has seen life, and it is one of those things. I mean, I've seen it with the beta machines where the machine has been repurposed maybe into a bedroom or for the kids or whatever, but it's broken down, so it's just like, oh, just get it going. You know, I don't want to spend too much money. And you can see a shop's basically just done just that, got it going. So yeah, I think the next thing I'm gonna do, because obviously this machine is, well, reported as dead. I don't want to power it up until I've done some more checks. So I have gone through the board just to see if there's any dries. They can suffer from dry joints, but this looks pretty good. I'm going to check the fuses on the back, and yeah, I think what I'll do first, though, is just see if there is any voltage on this battery. I don't know how long. Maybe that. Yeah, lovely. And yeah, it's 0.5 of a volt across there, so that's good. So that has every chance of actually charging up and being good. And it does ring true with the description that it was used up until recently and just died. So I'm going to put the cover back on this. Still amazed it didn't have a RIFA. It's like Philips learnt a lesson there. Glue's dried from repairing that. Seems fairly strong. And yeah, so I'm going to put it all back together with the board back down, and we'll give it a check. Well, check those fuses and then power it on and see what happens. So the board's back in, and well, let's test these fuses. Good start, nothing. So that one's open. So 1.6 amp. So I do have a 1.6 amp slow blow fuse. Let's pop that in. I'm still really concerned about the possibility of how much moisture damage this might have suffered. I don't know. It's going to be a fun machine to live with. So yeah, I'm going to put it a bit more back together, and then I suppose we ought to try and power it up. Okay, so what the heck, let's just plug it in and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. So yeah, still dead. Let's just check the fuse, see if that has popped again. Oh, that seems to have popped. There's no flash. Do you see a flash? Yeah, so that's popped again. So I think the next thing is to get the circuit diagram for this and see what that fuse actually feeds, and then we can sort of take it from there. So it's a few days on, and been checking through the power supply, and it does actually check fine. One thing to note is if I put the probe on the input side to the regulation circuit for the 12 volt power supply, you can see there's still nearly 11 volts stored across this capacitor. So it's something to watch out for. You know, if you do have problems, just make sure that this is discharged really, if you're going to start taking this apart. So, done some other checks. If I just put this to continuity, and if I go on the 12 volt side of this, so basically these connectors here, it's 4, 5, 6 are 12 volts, and then 1, 2, 3 are ground. If I just touch one of these, we've got almost a dead short, and if I pull the connector off, there we go, and just retest that. Fine. So the power supply, I think, is good. So we've got a problem on the main board. So yeah, I suppose we need to diagnose that next. Okay, so I take it all back. I've taken the actual power supply board out and tested to ground properly, and it is short. It's actually short across the outputs, even with it disconnected. It's just because it's obviously been a little bit sort of in the damp. I wasn't getting a good contact, so we have a problem here, which is good in some ways. So yeah, let's diagnose it. So just by way of reference, I did actually get it the right way around, but it's still the same result. So yeah, forgive me for that. Mainly because I thought it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's actually a 6 actually on the board. You see that there. So 6, 5, 4 are positive out, and yeah, I mean it's dead short. It's completely dead short. So no wonder the fuse is blowing. And yeah, that's what we need to look at. Okay, so let's get this apart. First thing is get these clips off. Regulating chips, and got the rectifier there. See, it's quite rusty under there. I'll clean all that up. And then one as well. If it will come out, there we go. And then these are torques. And this should just lift off. Yeah, there we go. So, back of the board. It's not terrible, but you can see it's been in moisture. Sure of it. I mean, the varnish can fail anyway. It sort of breaks down with age, but I don't know. It sort of just looks damp. Obviously, with that on there as well. So, yeah. So my money is probably on that cap. But to be honest, it could be anything. It could be any of the semiconductors through the regulation side of it. So it could even be the chip, maybe. Yeah, let's do some checks. So we move this cap and just move the power supply out of the way. And my suspicions are correct. Look at that, dead short, straight across. So yeah, we'll replace that and see if that improves the situation. The chances are everything else is fine. Yeah, so yeah, completely fine. Super, so I'll change that and we'll crack on. So that's it, that's in. Flat line is negative on the print, and the print's not brilliant. You can see here on the that large capacitor there, flat line is negative, goes to the negative of the can. So yeah, I've given it a bit of a clean as well, just cleaned up any residue underneath, because there was something under there, and yeah, put it back together. So let's get this back together. First of all, change this fuse. There we go. And mount that back on there. Then, with screws. And I have given things a bit of a clean. So, a little bit more presentable, and I don't know, it doesn't make much difference. So it makes it look better, it makes me happier. So, there we go. And I have cleaned these as well. So with these, the locking, I didn't do a very good job there, did I? So try again. It's a bit better. It's not perfect, but it'll do. So the locking, or the end of it goes sort of in the narrow slot, and the actual locking tab goes in the bigger slot. So and these are all a bit bad. I think probably what I'll do is I'll at a later date I will take these out and actually properly tidy them up. What I've actually done is I've used a tiny bit of deoxit just to sort of get the worst of it off, but it's not ideal. Let's try and get that so that pad is properly insulating, which it isn't at the moment, theoretically. You do have to give it a fair bit of pressure for it to lock. there we go. So all back together, and yeah, I suppose the next thing is to actually test it. So let's get this back together, and put the felt pad back on. It is actually broken, but split. Okay, super. Oops. Hi. And so there we go. It's back together. So I suppose the next thing is to test it. Let's put the blanking plate back in the back, which is something I always forget to both remove and replace. But at least I remember to replace it this time. I'll plug in a SCART adapter as well. And yeah, let's see if it works. Okay, so here goes. I'm just going to plug it straight in. Well, that's encouraging. Stand by. Yeah, a little bit concerned by the hunting. Maybe. Oh, it's sort of settling down. Right, okay. So so far so good. Well, there we have it. It's working. It's quite warm. It's all good. Time's right. Picture-wise, this is the tape that's in it, and it's looking pretty ropey, to be fair. I might try another tape, but it is working. So I do have a remote. I don't know whether it'll work. It should do. They're fairly generic from what I understand, as long as it's from the time. Sort of the same sort of vintage. They used pretty much all the same codes, so that should be fine. But of course we do have the problem that we're missing the IR receiver. So pretty much all good to go, but we do have a very noisy picture, lots of dropouts, and it's just not the greatest quality. So I think I'm going to leave this one here, and we'll do a part 2 where we'll go through the deck and just basically get this machine working as it should. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, something a bit different, and please like and subscribe as well. And thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.